Feeling stuck is a common human experience, so you're not alone. You can feel stuck at any point in life. We all have, whether it is with your love life, your career, with family dynamics, or even if you have identified what you want to pursue, an interest you're keen on, and you just don't know how to start. Other times, feeling stuck is not really entirely an internal thing. It might also be an external thing where your external circumstances have changed and you just don't really have the skills or the resources that you need to pursue them. So what does stuckness look like? Well, it can look like if you really want something, like a new job, a new relationship, or improved health, for example, and then not having the motivation or losing the motivation to do anything about it. Maybe you don't know where to start, or maybe you feel like it's too hard. Another reason can be that you are starting to pursue something that you're interested in, but then you back out a little bit later because you find it a little bit daunting when it comes to taking further steps towards it. Another reason, a really famous one, is overthinking. So overthinking about what can be better, what can be different. Often I think about it as the grass is greener on the other side kind of thing. That can often be quite crippling. And finally, the overthinking and the indecision that can make you worry even more. And when you start getting into an overthinking, indecisive cycle, you can be quite removed from being present and enjoying your life as it is right now. So aside from that, how can being stuck impact your life? Well, for starters, the quality of your life is just not going to be as awesome as it can be, because you have trouble with being present. Your mind is preoccupied with continuous worries and the fact that you haven't made a decision. You are less present with your friends and your loved ones, and that also can impact the quality of the relationships that you have with them. Your sleep gets affected, and therefore your energy levels are affected, and therefore so is your mood. And you find yourself more tired than usual, and you can also find yourself suffering at work. Your productivity might decline or deteriorate, or just not be at par as what it used to be. So now we kind of know what it looks like and how being stuck can impact your life. But why and how? How did we get ourselves into this position? Well, some of the reasons can be that you've outgrown a situation. It's not your fault. You just need more out of life or more out of your career right now. You know, you've simply grown. You're not who you are. You are not who you were 5 years ago. Secondly, you want to honor your values more. You know, you're at a point in your life where your day-to-day activities or your day-to-day life just doesn't seem to fulfill your personal values as much anymore. And so you might start feeling quite jaded. Being stuck is also much easier than putting in all that work that you anticipate that you'll have to for the desired outcome. So a good hint for this, or a good tip for this, would be accepting that things can be hard. That is a useful tip, because when you've accepted that it's going to be challenging, you can identify why it's hard and then, strategize accordingly. Another one, a pretty common one, I know I suffer from this as well. The success of others can make you feel less than worthy. For some of us, it can kind of spark a feeling of envy or jealousy. And for others, we might just feel insecure. We might not feel like we're good enough, or thought patterns such as I should be able to do this, and I shouldn't be like that, and I ought to pursue harder or sleep less or procrastinate. Like all these shoulds and oughts will start filling our mind when we start comparing ourselves with others, and therefore start feeling quite unworthy. And finally, I want to go back to what I mentioned earlier about the conditions of your life having changed or piled up, because somehow we have bitten off a little bit too much more than we can chew. And we kind of start struggling because we lack the skills and the resources to manage the current situation. So how can you get unstuck? Well, firstly, identify what you really want. You know where you want to go. Sit down, figure it out, figure out how to get there, deconstruct it as much as possible, and then you can strategize. Because only then will you know where to start, how much time is needed, what resources you need, because the goal can materialize when it's no longer vague or ambiguous. So when it's not vague, it's actionable and less daunting. Often life coaches can be really, really helpful for situations like these. Number 2, zoom out. So changing your perspective to how much will this matter to me when I'm 80 years old? Or when I'm on my deathbed, will this really matter that much? Or how can I see this situation differently? So these sort of questions can really help challenge the perspective that you have right now and reframe things. It can help you reprioritize your goals and also realign with your values. And I personally love these sort of questions because I work with a lot of grief and trauma and a lot of anxiety, and I really find these questions so powerful. I use them from time to time as well for myself. Number 3, I cannot emphasize this more. Move your body. You have to move. We often don't realize how much our brain actually needs our body. Changing the state of the body, whether in terms of physical activity or just going outside into nature, it can really get some of these awesome chemicals running. You can just come back with a zest for life again, and maybe even some inspiration. So give your brain a break, let the body take over from time to time. Number 4, decide to decide later. So what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is that sometimes we don't actually need to pressure ourselves to making that decision right now or taking action right now. So setting a date in the near future on when you'll have to make the decision can be quite helpful, because it can free up some of the mental space that it's taking up right now with all the worries, and it can reduce the pressure. When that happens, you can think with clarity. And also we have to keep in mind that a lot changes in life. You never know what's going to happen next week. So if this is not a decision that absolutely has to be made right now, give yourself a little bit of time and decide a little bit later. And finally, I have to say, avoid analysis paralysis. And this is something I think many of us fall prey to. So I definitely get into this mode sometimes when something is really weighing on my mind, or I'm really excited about something. And when I realize that I'm just ruminating and analyzing my my situation to death, I feel like kicking myself for it. And I shouldn't. I should be more compassionate and actually understand that, this is just what the brain does. So to get out of this, I would suggest taking a micro step towards your desired goal. So for example, if you want to lose weight, just the micro step would be just to bring all the unhealthy treats and junk food and, the yummy things in your pantry that you don't really want to have anymore, you shouldn't have anymore, and just take it to your workplace. Just take it to the office, leave it in the kitchen, just turn around and just slowly walk away and don't turn back. So that can be an example. And if you're like me and you start analysis paralysis in bed, what I find really helpful is either listening to a podcast that inspires me to get closer to the goal. Or what I like to do is actually, if I have some pen and paper, I'll just sit up, write my thoughts out, and just try and go back to sleep again, just literally trying to get them out of my head. Or I'll just pick up my phone and write it down in notes and then put it away. And often I find, like, when I've externalized these thoughts or these worries or these concerns, or ideas even, I can actually start calming down and go to sleep. Now, this is not to say that life is straightforward, because our life circumstances aren't very straightforward. We are humans, we are complex beings, and therefore often a web of complexity is woven into our lives. And this is where seeing a therapist or a counselor can be very helpful, because the therapist assumes that position of non-judgment. You can spill your thoughts and your emotions freely. You have space to unload, to be heard, and to think through your concerns with someone that can guide you according to your own values. Together, collaboratively, you can also discover your own strengths that are unique to you, and then develop the strategies that best suit you. So it's very customized, it's very tailored assistance. And you can find therapists and counselors like myself on Psychology Today. You can also go to the Australian Counselling Association, or the ACA.net. There's another association called the Psychotherapy and Counselling Federation of Australia, or PACFA. I've included the links below, and you can also definitely check out these sites for resources. They have tons of resources. And if you find yourself in a little bit of a pickle, or you have a situation, you need some ideas, some hints, some helpful articles, I'm like so sure you're going to find resources on these websites. So have a look. And if you have any tips or ideas about getting unstuck, I'd love to hear from you. So please comment below, and if you'd like to connect with me, you can visit my website at aroadtororecovery.com, or you can drop me an email. I'm also reachable through Facebook and Instagram. So that's all for now. Till next time. Bye.